T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Fuck you, Westport!
Yeah! What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on another Saturday edition of the Best Grow Show. And as I tell every guest, you can't just name yourself the Best Grow Show. You got to be voted. So I speak to people. And this week, 9 out of 10 small tree lovers think this is the Best Grow Show. So that's why we brought you on, or maybe you inspired who I talked to. Because you're the Bonzhai Garden Guy. How you doing today?
It's another day in paradise. Been a little bit of a busy day, but overall, really good day. Girls are stinking me out right now, so can't complain about that.
In a good way, yeah. Dude, so thank you for joining us, or joining me again. You've been a guest in the past, and I really enjoyed the conversation. So I was stoked to see you hop in the other week. And I'm like, dude, we got to come back and we got to do a full episode with each other because it's been a while. We haven't caught up. So thank you again for joining me today because I know it's been a busy one.
Oh, yeah. It's been all over the place today. But no, thank you for having me back. I always enjoy our conversations. We do touch base on quite a few different things. So hopefully some of the things we touch on today will help some folks that are out there in the chat improve their grows.
Definitely. And, that is kind of one thing. Well, there's many things I like about you. It's a philosophy. And people watching the show, they'll kind of see that I gravitate towards kind of a certain type of person or a group of person. And that's a person who's, out there doing it and doing it with good intentions. And, everybody is somebody that we can learn from. And I really enjoy kind of your approach too, because it goes it goes beyond the garden. A lot of us approach this as like a medicinal plant or, some kind of experience that makes us feel some kind of way. And when you put in a little extra love, I think that matters, and you definitely do. And so I want to dive into some of that today. For these viewers, shoot, it's been over a year. We might just rewind all the way to the beginning of your grow. But before we started, we were just talking, or you were just talking about something about when to harvest. Because people will know me. I'm like 60 days, man. It's got to be a 60-day plant, or I don't want it in my tent because I've got rotations to hit.
Right.
But I'm going through beans lately and I'm looking for new stuff. And that 60-day hard rule just doesn't apply. As much as I tell the plant, I'm like, you're going to finish. It doesn't. So I've had to let things go longer, and I do that for certain reasons. But it's harvest time for a lot of people. What were you just kind of telling me? You had a similar incident of expecting 60 days.
Yeah, I've ran these two genetics before, and before one of them finished at 56 days and the other one finished at 60. So I set it tentatively to go ahead and have these girls pulled down in 60 days, which will be on the 19th. But I went ahead, I pulled the jeweler's loop out today, and I was like, I see a lot of beautiful senescence going on. I see them, basically consuming themselves, getting ready to finish out. But I do still have some white hair, so I was like, let's kind of see what our trichomes are telling us right now. And we still have a lot of clear. We're just starting to get some of that cloudiness in. And I mean, I've grown quite a bit over the years based on where it's at. I still have about 10 to 14 days left on these plants. So that's going to push me out to probably like 63 to 65, 66 days. So when I'm harvesting, I'm always looking at that trichome color. I'm hoping that I can get like a 10 to 20% amber in there. This time I'm going to be trying something new because I'm going to be doing a little bit of hash. So I'm going to see if I can get this all harvested right at that milky phase. But yeah, that 60-day mark for me, not this time. Decided to say no, sir. So
as much as we wish, and two, like the Westport grape juice always finishes for me in like 55, but I'll let it go to 60 days. I have one in there that is 63 days right now and probably going to go a few more. Like, I don't know if it's because my weather just kind of got cold and it hit a little bit of a slowdown towards the end, but yeah, I'm seeing some of the extra, the white stigmas popping out. I'm looking at the trichomes and I'm seeing more clear than I kind of want to. And that could be, I'm glad you mentioned hash too, because people who are growing for flower and growing for hash might want a different harvest window or a different harvest time. A lot of it's based on color versus like actual matureness.
right.
But one thing we always hear, and I'd love to get, chat, what is your input on this one? Because the tradition is like 10% clear, 80% milky, 10% amber. That's when you pull. And you mentioned 20% amber, 10 to 20, and that's where it really gets down into personal preference. So maybe do you have your own personal preference and why do you have it? And kind of the same for you guys in chat. What do you like to see as far as ratios of trichomes?
Me personally, that is a preference thing for me. 10 to 20%. I used to be like in the 30 to 40, which was more like, oh, we're going to have a little bit more CBN and stuff like that in the content of the flower. And I was looking for more of that pain relief, like sedative effect, I guess you could say, which is kind of what CBN is known for. Right now, the reason that I'm actually going to be trying it this way is I do press my own hash. I'll be washing. It's kind of hard to say because these plants, they exploded in size. I didn't expect them to get this big. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to wash half of this. And now all of a sudden I'm like, well, maybe I only will be washing one because there's so much plant matter I wasn't expecting. But I've been pressing rosin for I want to say about 2 or 3 years now, and I've noticed when I used my like 30 to 40% amber that I was coming out with a much darker rosin. It wasn't as visually appealing. Don't get me wrong, really potent,
Right.
very tasty. But it didn't have that visual appeal that I was really looking for as well. So for like the past year, I've been kind of tampering with the harvest times as far as what the trichomes look like, color, content, etc. And I've kind of come down to it's either got to be that nice milky color or at the max have about 10% amber to get that really nice golden rosin that everybody loves to look at. Everybody loves to smoke.
Right.
So
now, one of the things that I think is super cool too, when you maybe pull before it gets darker, or you're inspecting the trichomes, is when you have a really purple plant. That anthocyanin is pulled up the stalk of the trichome, and it even makes it to the head. Like, have you ever seen some of the washes turn purple or have a little tint to it?
I did actually have a wash where my rosin came out like this weird, really dark, like purplish green. And I was trying to figure that out. I was running a genetic from Seedsman that was the Alaskan purple. And I mean, this stuff turned like damn near jet black at the finish. It wasn't even purple. Like, it was like black like my shirt. And after some close observation, I did notice that the anthocyanin, yes, was starting to seep up into the resin heads. So that's where that coloration was coming from. I discussed it with a few other people that I know that press rosin. One major person that I talk to when it comes to rosin is Pedro from Pedro's Grow Room. That guy does he does amazing work, and he's a super chill guy, and he makes some beautiful glass work. So I mean, he's really well rounded, and I've seen his grows too. Fantastic. He does the living style as well, and he was the one that kind of tipped me on to the what kind of color, like amber ratio that you're looking for, what temperatures you want to be pressing at, how you want to set your bags up. And there's, so many different settings for different types of material. Whereas like when I first started pressing rosin, I was doing the hair straightener between the parchment, with the C-clamp.
Been there.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and just crush that down as hard as I can. And it wasn't really temperature controlled. And when I got the heat gun on it, I realized I was pressing at like 210, 220. And
Good grip.
it was real hot. So I went ahead and I got myself a press. I have an anvil press, and then I have a freeze dryer as well, so that I can wash and get the maximum amount of yield out of it as I can. So I'm just pressing straight, resin heads there. But it's been a wild adventure getting the resins and everything dialed in. I used to do a lot of BHO via closed loop, short path distillation as well. So I've seen quite a broad spectrum of styles of doing extracts. And I will say that doing rosins has probably been not only the most visually appealing, but the least amount of freaking work. I will tell you that right now, because the washing machine, if you're doing it that way, or if you're doing like a dry ice sift, for example, dry ice sift, you're going to be shaking your arms a little bit, but you're not doing it for, 20 minutes, a half hour. It's only supposed to be for a couple minutes at a time. With the paddle in the bucket. So
I've recently bought a washing machine for that, so we're good.
And it's a total game changer too. If you get a chance, I don't know if there's a lot of people out there in the chat that do press rosin and things like that. Pedro actually on his YouTube has something that he called Hash Tips and Rips, where he goes through the whole process of, this is what we're looking for. This is how long you want to do your first wash, second wash, third wash, fourth wash, up to, 5 washes, where we're going to be drying it, how we're going to be drying it. He also gives you alternatives on how to not use a freeze dryer to also dry your hash as well. So that's where I picked up a lot of tips as far as pressing goes and doing all the washing. But I'll tell you what, man, after getting the washing machine, that was a game changer. Not as gassed out. The only time that you're really dealing with doing any manual labor at that point is when you're actually pressing it. So I'm super excited.
You still have to lift your bags. But anybody who's sat there and has paddled for 15, 20 minutes, ice freaking buds in a bucket, not stopping, you would appreciate having that washing machine. Unless you were doing the drill bit on the end of the screwdriver, which was a great 90s technique, but like the hair straightener, we realized, no, that's just not the right way to go about it. So you want to be gentle.
Right. And that was one of the things that the first mistakes I made was, well, if I'm going to get them off, I got to beat it up, right? And come to find out, that's not actually what we're trying to do. When you're doing the wash, you're relying on the water to just take it off. You're not trying to beat those up. That basically you're messing with the integrity of the heads there at that point, which if you've ever done this, I've done this before with the water that you've washed afterwards. If you actually freeze it, any excess terpene oils that have leaked from your heads will actually come up to the very top, and you'll end up with a fresh layer of terpenes, and they can be crystal clear.
I am doing that. I've got to try that because that would be freaking sweet. I wonder, just dab it on a bowl or do whatever. But okay, because that water, you have to get rid of it. I learned the first time that if you take that, excess water, you're done, you've pulled your bags, it's just in the bottom, you don't think there's anything in it. If you dump it in the bathtub, bro, you're in bad shape because that floor is going to be sticky for weeks. Like, there's still stuff in there. So don't dump it down your bathtub drain if you live with anybody, particularly your wife, who is like, why is it sticky?
Yeah, I made that mistake. I dumped it down the kitchen sink, and then all of a sudden it was like, why does the bottom of the sink look like that? And then it was like, stick your finger in it and then smell it, and it was like, oh no, I goofed up. I'm pretty sure there was stuff still left in there, so let me just go ahead and go get the rubbing alcohol. We'll try and get as much as we can off right now.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of why we mentioned being gentle, almost letting the water be the extractor and the separator versus like brute force, because when you kind of go in with brute force, you're creating a lot of like excess plant material, and you could be like busting the resin heads, negating the whole benefit of them. But that's also why we use different bags, is to kind of sift out some of that excess plant material. When I first bought my set, it was an 8-bag set. It started at like 200 with the work bag, and it went all the way down to a 25 micron bag. Larger the number, larger the hole, smaller number, smaller the holes. But yeah, and since I've deviated, it depends on really what my goal is. Whether I'm looking for like full melt, I might use more bags, or if I'm using something that I'm just going to like press and roll up into a nice dark chunk of hash, which I like to do, I won't use as many bags. So have you developed a preference? Or are you kind of experimenting with what sizes you use, or how you approach the different bags?
Right now, what I've been doing, I have basically, just like Pedro does, what he calls the Tower of Power, and that's five-gallon buckets with the bottoms cut out where the bags are basically pulled over. Depending on how roughed up my wash got will determine whether or not I use the 200 bag. I think it's 220. So I have 220, 162, I think it's 95, and then it drops way low to like 65, and then 42 or something like that. I can't remember the exact size of my bags. I got them stashed away right now because I've been more focused on this than I have the rosin. But that's generally the sequence that I go into as far as the bag sizes that I'm washing. And the nice thing is that growing the way that I do use a couple of products from Build a Soil. So I use the aloe, the coconut, and I use the Q Yaha. I have the old Q Yaha. They came out with 2 different products. They have a Q Yaha 20 and a Q Yaha 60. And the one that I use is basically the Q Yaha 60. And when I first saw that product, J Plant Speaker was the one who came out with that one. And his glands, his heads were monstrous. He had nothing get through the 162.
Wow.
Nothing.
Big.
And I mean, he was showing these bricks of rosin that were like 4 or 5 pounds, just monster golden glory goodness. And I was like, well, all right, I'm going to give that a shot. And the first grow that I used it on, I had strawberry banana and chocolate going.
Ooh,
and
I like both.
Yeah, very, very tasty. I have the new strawberry banana coming in. I'm very excited for. The Kuyaha actually did increase the head size. And I did a little bit of research on that, and it has to do with the saponins. A lot of people I shouldn't say a lot of people. There are quite a few folks out there that don't know about saponins and what their actual purpose is inside the plant.
What's happening? That's my favorite
Exactly.
line. Anytime somebody mentions happening, I gotta be all, what's happening? So
Mhm.
actually, maybe for people who don't know, because it can be a complicated. Well, what's happening?
So saponins basically are like plant soaps. Believe it or not, Q-Yaha is used in various hair products. It's used in certain sodas
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. What saponins do for a plant? So from what my understanding is from the research that I've done is it's actually part of their immune system. So when the plant is under a fungal or a bacterial attack, if you were to take a tissue culture from that area where that attack's happening, it has elevated levels of saponins so that it can fight off the fungus or the bacteria that's trying to invade their immune system. So that's what I understand, and I've read quite a few articles on it. That's basically the gist that I got from every single one of them. And for us, being that we grow cannabis and things like that, the trichomes are actually part of the plant's immune system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one way that they stave off predators because of the aromas that we all love so much. It's being that it is part of their immune system, giving them something that's just going to help them boost their immune system. It could realistically correlate to you having larger glandular heads and a little bit more cannabinoid production uh,
Yep.
by elevating that, because then they're not having to work so hard to produce so much of it. It's really hard to overdo it with the Q-Yaha. But I mean, yucca is another good example that
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of saponins in it. Aloe vera has saponins that are very useful in our plants as well as some free silica for you. So if you guys haven't looked into saponins, they also, as they put it, it makes your water wetter. So
Yes.
it
Water
breaks
wetter
the,
surfactant.
yes, it's surfactant. It breaks the surface tension. So when you're watering, you don't end up with these big pools. It goes in and it distributes nice and evenly through the pot versus like, oh, I got a pocket here and I got a pocket here and I got a pocket here because I decided to, go in there with a flowering jug, pour it
Yeah.
all in.
And in the bottle world too, a lot of people will use silica for that
Mhm.
purpose. Kind of again to strengthen the plant. There's some benefits to it, but also to make the water wetter, which is usually why you add that first before you add other ingredients. Kind of let the silica sit for a little bit, because if you have like a haze on the top of your watering can at the end, some of the nutrients have fallen out of solution, and it's usually because silica gets added after some things like calcium, for example.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, oh, good to see people. Cake in a cup. I see you in chat. What's up, brother? Hit me up if you can on the IG or whatnot. Back to the show. Yeah, that's a nice natural product too that a lot of people can source by themselves. Or you mentioned some benefits to the aloe, and I've heard people mixing that into water too. Some of the KNF stuff. So let's maybe actually I should probably give away some beans first, but then I want to
Yeah.
then I want to get into your kind of your background with growing, because I love how you do it, but I want to hear how you start and maybe made the transition, or who knows, maybe you started this way. But let's see first. Let's give away some of the Twin Peaks cannabis seeds here, and this is a special limited release. Well, it's not even gonna be released. It is part of the masking tape series, which people who have got
Yeah.
beans from me in the past know about masking tape. It is the Chad. So it's the Westport grape juice times Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks was the male. Twin Peaks is from Lucky Dog Seed Co., Skunk VA. It is a Chem 91 BX2 times Chem Cis. I did the seed increase because I wanted to sift through those and find maybe something that leans more Chem 91. But of course, I had the Westport grape juice in there, so shabam, we had to get that cross going. So I got a couple of those here we'll give away. I'm going to flip to the other screen and actually figure out the right thing to type in here. Let's see here. They love it when I do this. StreamYard giveaway tool. I feel like the teacher talking and writing on the chalkboard at the same time, which I kind of am. Okay. So I see Mr. Jeff P up in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. And you, my friend, have inspired the code word for this giveaway. So, US only, please. US only. There may be some things in Canada very shortly for people to get on, but US only, preferably for now. The magic word to type into the screen for the beans is 0173. So go ahead and type that in. We'll get these away. And anybody who has asked if I have anything available right now, I do. It looks like there were 7 packs left this morning. Let me go over. I could show you where to find my beans.
Uh-oh. Oh no, Chad. Uh-oh. We may have lost Chad for a second trying to get over to the website so that we can see that. Exactly. So hopefully we'll be able to get this giveaway as soon as he gets back, but we'll go ahead and kind of fill in the space. Is there any questions, comments, concerns out there that maybe... Ah, there he is!
Back? Am I here?
Yes, sir.
Holy S-H-I-T. I-T being the error. Thanks for covering the show. Thanks for doing that. I guess it's giving people extra time to enter 173. Holy crap. I was not watching my battery on the computer. Yeah, my computer just died for a second. I was like, ooh, I wonder how that's going to work out for the show.
It's all right. I was trying to figure out a way we could fill in the gaps. So I was going to be like, hey, we'll get the beans, given away as soon as Chad gets back. And then we'll kind of see if there's any questions here in the chat that we can get answered as far as, if you guys are curious about anything as far as what we have going on back here, or, just rando questions. More than down.
Dude, you're a stud. That's why it's fun talking with you. Like, you could do this by yourself. And maybe that's the time for me to ask about the YouTube. Are you going to bring the YouTube channel back? Are you going to start uploading? The videos you have are good.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, it's been a while with the babies. It made it a little bit more difficult to find time to do my editing and stuff like that. But I am going to be bringing back another educational series. I went over like powdery mildew, what exact mix that I'm using. This next time I'm going to be bringing microbes to the forefront. I've been listening to a lot of stuff from Jeff Lowenfels, Dr. Ingram up there from the University of Oregon and stuff like that. So it's going to be geared towards living soil growers. That way, if we have people that are curious about it, they can get a good jump start on some information that can get them guided in the right direction.
Nice, dude. I will be looking forward to that. And that's a little bit of what we're going to get into talking here in a second. I just wanted to show everybody before I managed to crash my computer. And as everybody in chat is saying, stoner move, which I'm not going to argue that. I'm not arguing it. You're not wrong. But over on Garden, this is where you can find my beans. I just scroll down, click on the Twin Peaks there, and you get a little bit of a bio on Twin Peaks. I've got one product up there right now, which is the Chud, and this was what we were giving away for a while. It's a 10-pack, and yep, still 7 in stock. So those are the last 7 in existence. If you wanted to get one, you can. And here are a few pictures from John, Trippy P, Flower Humboldt, Bingus 503, and Tie Sticks. And then you get a little bit of a description about what it is. There's a bonus pack, 5-pack of that Twin Peaks in there from the seed increase I was telling you about. For that was actually done at the same time as what we're giving away. This one, boom! I really need to like trademark that. It's the masking tape series. So yeah, those are all the short run exclusive the masking tape series. All right, so I'll give people another couple seconds. If you are in the US and you want to get in on this to win a pair of those beans, just type 173 in chat, and in just a minute's time I'm going to roll the dice. So before we do that, are you puffing on anything today?
Actually, I just ran out. That's why I'm so excited for this harvest to happen. I'm like, oh my God, really? Because I had a really good run of these two genetics. Kind of kicking myself in the butt because there was a cut of Mendo cups that I really should have kept there. Phenomenal structure, amazing smoke. But right now, if anything, it would be resin. And as much as I enjoy that poo-poo flavor,
there's always the technique of when you in that situation a little bit early, you're like, well, I'm just going to take this one branch off a week early, and then I might put it in a paper bag, and then I might turn some heat on it, and then I'll have at least something to test and smoke, even though it's like not what you really want to smoke. But I've definitely done maybe or seen that in the past when you don't have anything from the last harvest to get you through.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be patient right now. It smells phenomenal in here, and it's super frosty. Like everything is super frosty, and I'm just letting the anticipation build. We'll call it my tolerance break for right now. Is what we'll do. So I
like that.
Yeah, we'll call it my tolerance break for right now. But man, every time I look back at these, my mouth starts to water, and I'm just like, oh, you be patient. You've only got a couple more weeks. You can do this. And then I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a hell of a ride when everything comes ready. So
yeah, right. You'll be swimming in it. All right, 113 people in here. Good luck. If you do win, just let me know in the chat that yes, you are US only, and I'll have you hit me up on Instagram. So good luck, everybody. Rolling the dice here. Let's see who wins. All these names I see and know. We're going with Rick 4962. Congratulations, Rick. You are the winner. So yeah, just type into chat USA and hit me up on Instagram, and we will get those to you. So thank you for that. And I did see one question come in for you. Congratulations again, Rick. I guess I'll leave that up for a second in case you took a pee break, went to get some water. These types of things happen. And if you forget to reach out or you don't reach out for a couple of weeks, that's still fine. Let me know. I had that happen recently, but I write down all the winners here. So when you hit me back, A, I have it written down. B, it's easy for me to go through the old shows and just confirm it. But yeah, if you're like, damn, I forgot to hit them up. Too late. Nope. Just hit me up. We'll take care of you. It's all good.
Congrats, Rick.
Yeah. And let's see here. The one question that came in for you while we were doing that was, is Bonsai more of a sativa or indica man? So kind of the racier effects versus a more sedative effect.
Ah, man. You see, that's
equal opportunity stoner.
I am what the rated E for everyone. That's the easiest way to put it. It depends on really how I'm feeling for the day. Generally, the indicas are the ones that have more of the pain relief for me, at least how my endocannabinoid system works. I get more pain relief from the indicas versus the sativas. I know that if I need to get stuff up and going for the day, like I got a whole honey-do list to do. I'm going to be hitting that sativa right now. I've actually got some seeds germinating that I received from a friend who, he shall not be named, but he gave me a 1986 sour diesel from Humboldt. So yeah, I've got some vintage genetics. I'm really excited about that one. The only thing I'm not excited about is the flower time on it. I know that I've seen it grown out before, and the last time I saw it, it ran for 13 weeks.
Wow. That's a long flower. So that's probably not something you're going to try to toss outside, right? That would be an indoor type thing.
Yeah, that would be an indoor type thing. And there are some small cheat codes that you can use. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with something called triacantanol. It's readily available in alfalfa meal, which is one of the amendments that a lot of folks like to use. It actually speeds up the ripening process. So you can reduce down the length of your flower time up to a week by amending alfalfa meal into your soil. So there's one good tip for you that I have. It's one that I use to kind of cheat the system. And no, it does not affect the cannabinoid content. It does not reduce down the THCA percentages or anything like that as well. So that is a huge perk. If you haven't looked into alfalfa meal, it's one of those things that I recommend to everybody. You can put it in nutrient teas, compost teas. Compost teas, it has a little bit of a different effect than that, but we can go into that later if you guys would like to. Since I'm a huge compost tea guy, it's one of those things with living soil. So
right. Well, that's a good part of it too, and it definitely served its purpose. It's not something that I do a whole bunch here myself, so that would be fun to get into. One thing with alfalfa meal, like ethylene blockers or production of ethylene, that can affect the hormones, which can affect the sexual stability.
correct.
So I think it's kind of like all things, good in the right doses, but if you go too heavy, like kelp is awesome, but if you go too heavy, you're going to start testing hot for heavy metals. So
correct.
Yeah.
Alfalfa meal, what I found, and usually what I do, is anywhere from 1.5 teaspoons all the way up to a tablespoon per gallon of media as far as the alfalfa. And that's going to sound really light, but if you're in a living soil system like I am, the microbes are going to break that down real quick. So you don't want to give yourself that overabundance. And I don't top dress it again or anything like that. That will generally go into my flour mix before I flip. So I want to make sure that I'm not having those issues, because with the triacantanol, if you put in a little bit too much alfalfa meal, I did encounter a crop where I caused a few things to hermaphrodite. So there's a fair warning. There's a fair warning for you guys.
It's one of those weird things because it's unseen. It's I'm familiar with like the vegetable and the produce side of things, and that is what they use to like give color to certain vegetables that aren't ripe yet. Is everything's in cold storage, but then they gas the room, and then all of a sudden the bananas are turning yellow instead of green. Ethylene being the chemical there, or compound.
Yes. The compound that causes the ripening. It's the same for tomatoes, apples, bananas, basically any plant that has any kind of fruit or flowering to it. Ethylene is the main compound that causes your ripening. So I know I have a video that I put up on my Instagram. It's a little bit of a short one, but it shows you how to continue ripening green tomatoes after your season is done. And I do bring up the ethylene in there. Too much ethylene will cause things to ripen and mushen up too quick. You got to have kind of like that right balance, basically, when you're dealing with that compound in specific. So,
and thanks for the tip with the tomatoes of putting the butt up. I went out after the last show and checked, and my wife did have it butt up. So our heirloom tomato is nice and tasty and preserved. We let it, like you, picked it green. We let it ripen and color on the counter. So that works. But we've given it away. So you're growing kind of organically living soil, which is awesome, because I know a lot of people here are interested in that, whether it's like pre-mixing the soil or doing like top amendments, compost teas. How did you start though? What was your introduction? Did you garden before cannabis, or did you do cannabis and then garden? Like chicken or the egg? What came first?
It was actually in the garden first. The first time that I put my feetsies in the soil, I was about 4 years old, and it was with my Korean grandma. And I know KNF is something that has been recently coined. I think it was like back in like the early 2000s is when they came up with the term KNF. And after I did some research, I realized that she had been doing that stuff since I was a little kid. She was making fermented plant juices, a different type of jadam that she was making back there as well. And we always used to dread her being like, yeah, go get that. And she would have you go get a cup of the just nasty FPJ. And you'd be like, running along pouring it. And then she taught us a lot about amending the soil, primarily using fish. So I started in the garden with all sorts of different types of fruits and veggies, from Napa cabbage to, tomatoes. Zucchinis was a really big one. Cucumbers was a really big one as well. And these are things that I still continually grow. Napa cabbage I've kind of laid off because we have a lot of earwig issues with anything that's a real leafy green here. So, but as a heads up for everybody, earwigs are actually a beneficial. Most people don't know that. They just don't fly. They eat soft-bodied insects, aphids, and things like that. It's learning how to control the population. So that's as a heads up. They may look creepy. They may look, less desirable to have in the garden, but they are one of those beneficials that can help you out if you manage the population. So that's kind of where I started. And then I've been partaking in cannabis for probably a little bit longer than folks think. I'm actually about 37. So I've been smoking for, my first puff I was like 11 or 12. So,
Legalization.
Yeah. So legacy market is what we'll say. Legacy market. And here where I'm at, it didn't become legal to grow until I think it was like 2015, I want to say, here in Nevada. So I think it was about 2015 when you were allowed to smoke legally, recreationally, and I think medical was the year before that. But I did participate in a couple of guerrilla grows and stuff like that. I mean, most of us that have been growing, cultivating for a while have at one point or another done that. Guilty as charged. But while I was doing that, though, I made sure that I kept up on being able to cultivate food. I think it's a key thing that everybody should know how to do, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of folks out there that are struggling. Well, you could go buy a seed pack at your local garden center for pennies on the dollar, and literally for the entire summer, or even in the entire year, if you want to use a grow tent, or if you have a atmosphere controlled greenhouse, you can give yourself something to eat year round. And the inputs, what's been sprayed on it, if anything has been sprayed on it, so there's a lot of perks to knowing how to do that. So while I was doing the guerrilla grows and really getting myself dialed in as far as how the growing style that I wanted to do, because I've tried hydroponics, I've done deep water culture, living soil, and I've done coco coir as well, where I used Gaia Green, with coco coir, and I was watching Mr. Canucks grow and watching him have great success with it. And I was like, cool, I'm going to give that a try. I'll use his exact mix, and it all downhill. Oh, no. I didn't have a clue as to why. And then after, doing some cultivation for, I want to say about 4 or 5 years, it all just clicked. I said, oh my God, our atmospherics are completely different. I'm high mountain.
Yep.
He's close to the sea.
Yep.
So my air's really thin. His air's really thick. So there are some things, and that actually adjusts how your VPD works as well. So if your air is thinner, you're going to have more pressure on your plants. So you got to figure out how your high, you got to get that humidity up so you can take that pressure off. Whereas somebody at sea level has the opposite problem. They got to get rid of the humidity so they can get pressure on the plants to make them grow. So
my humidity has gone up 8% since I closed my door. Since we've started.
Oh God.
Yeah. I'm coastal, coastal to Colorado, like you're saying, way different. Like that's why sometimes, just following a generic recipe or just following a recipe that you see some person on the internet using might lead to different results. Because like you said, there's a lot of unknown or unseen variables. It's not written down. It's in between the lines.
Right. And some of it is really just trial and error. You don't know until you try. And that's all. I was like, oh, I can get the same atmospherics as he does inside the tent. And, I can get this and I can get that. And I make 100%, mimicry is the best form of flattery. But it failed for me. It failed for me. Well, I'll just say that I made some mistakes. Is the easiest part. I won't necessarily say it failed. Did I end up with a harvest? Yes. Was it the harvest that I desired? No. So that's how we'll put it. Mistakes were made, and it took me some time to figure out about my area and realizing that some of these growers that we do watch, see them, they're in California, we're down in Mendocino, and they have their terroir down there, and it's completely different than what we have going on up here. Down there, it's all fruity, and you get these nice aromas that are naturally existent in the air, whereas where I'm at, you get sagebrush. So yeah, I know so there are definite polar opposites to areas as well. But over the years, I've just made sure that when I decided the way that I wanted to cultivate was going to be an organic style, I looked at how many different ways you can do organics. Because believe it or not, they have like aquaponics and things like that. I saw a dude grow a plant inside a pond with fish poo. Yeah, which was that one was very interesting for me to see, and I was like, holy shit, that's technically organic too. Like, wow. Yeah. So there's so many different. Yeah, it's very sustainable too, because the fish will feed off the roots and things like that. As long as they're not too aggressive with it, it's not going to harm your plant. But then I started. There's another guy that I follow, Medically Fit. He's really good about putting a lot of educational material out there. He actually sends me a lot of stuff on Instagram pertaining to the soil food webs and stuff like that really opened my eyes to like, oh shit, maybe I need to take a step back here, do a little bit more research, and maybe I can come up with the system for my area. So and right now, I mean, it's taken me about 3 years to really figure out my local soil. I've used it for 10 years, but only in the last 3 did I figure it out. So, and that was 7 years of like hardcore research, sitting down every day, listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to audio books, going around to different people's pages and being like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at something else and it completely contradicts it. And it's like, well, only one way to find out. Let's test it, run it, and then I'd get my results. So the last about probably 3 years is when I've had this really dialed in. And as far as like food cultivation, I've done it since I was a kid. So I've never really gone hungry for that reason.
And that's such, a good point, especially in this day and age. And you would be surprised how little of a space you actually need to provide good, consistent food for yourself. If you do a food map and you work out the rotation about what's in season, how long does it take to harvest, almost like cannabis, you come up with a crop rotation and you work that out. Some things you can, carrots, if you and your family love carrots, okay, usually 7 weeks. So plant like 20 today, plant another 20 tomorrow or next Monday or Saturday or whatever. And you just kind of start staggering. You plant it so you always have a perpetual harvest of food. Then you pull that first one out, and well, you go back and plant that. And then next week you're pulling the second out. So there's a lot of similarities, that do cross over from regular agriculture to cannabis if you just kind of make that application. And one thing that we all rally against in traditional agriculture is like monoculture, monocropping, because it's not very good or healthy for the soil. And we tend to do that with our cannabis when we're talking living organic soils. So maybe how have you kind of like amended or combated that? Do you do a rotation outside in the garden with at least the vegetables?
Oh, with the vegetables, absolutely. I do. Last year, well, there's only one crop I don't really do it with because I know the soil that's underneath is super rich. Been amending it since I was a kid. So if I tap that area out, it's going to take me some years to do. And that was my zucchini. But other than that, like I'll cycle from where my tomatoes will go versus where I'll put my cucumbers. The strawberries, they just run amok. So you can't really control those. I mean, you can snip off the runners and everything like that. But if you've got a decent patch, it becomes a little bit.
We've got them in pots here. We got our strawberries in pots.
Yeah, I've got mine in planter bed. Yeah, I've got mine in a planter bed, thankfully, and I've been able to keep it semi-controlled. I've got a mix of pine berries and strawberries in there. So that planter bed's pretty much closed off. But then, so for example, next year where I had my tomatoes this year, that's where I'm going to put all of my pepper plants. So that's where I'll do all of my bell peppers. I'll do my poblanos. I'll do my jalapenos, habaneros. I was hoping to get a hold of Jeff from Mad Hatter and see if I could get some of his Mad Hatter peppers. So
that would be cool.
Yeah, I've seen some of them, and I was like, ooh. Oh, looks like got a little bite to it. I would like to sample that. Would like to grow that, please.
It amazes me how many like cannabis people, and in particular, I've noticed like cannabis breeders are growing peppers as well. And we're all like trying to grow like the hottest, like, again, we always want to have the coolest one. So we're going just for like the gnarliest stuff and we're manipulating it and playing with it. And then I learned in a conversation with Dr. Mayavi Shields that there's actually, I forget what it is now. But there's an element in the pepper that acts on the cannabinoid system. It acts on your ECS. And I'm like, I wonder if that's why we're all into peppers, man. It's just like another way to like tap that button.
Yeah, and it may be, and I think that's part of the reason why I like cultivating my own food as well, is everything pairs together so nicely. You know what I mean? You get like a fresh salad, for example, from the garden, and it may sound nuts, but I do like the bitterness of the fan leaves. You throw some fan leaves on there, and all of a sudden you have something that's pretty similar to arugula, but then from what I understand,
sorry, that's one of my favorite words to say. Come on, everybody.
Arugula. Okay. Yeah, this actually has a very similar taste to a couple phenotypes of arugula. So, and some research that I've done states that CBD and a lot of those styles of the cannabinoids that we enjoy, when they're in their early flower stage, are actually in their fan leaves. So you can combine the flavor with a medicinal effect that doesn't necessarily give you the psychoactive high, but actually relieves your body from a little bit of pain for the next couple of hours over the digestion.
Interesting. I want to dive back here. We were talking regenerative soil, living soil, soil food web. And that brought up, because you had mentioned Jeff Lowenfels, who I love. He's got the Teeming With series. What is it? Microbes, fungi, nutrients, and bacteria. Bacteria being the new one. But also I want to ask if Matt Powers, is that a person that you've seen, or are you familiar with him?
I've listened to a little bit of his stuff, but I've been so caught up on Jeff because he did a lot of work with Professor Ingram and stuff.
Yep.
So, and she was the one that really brought the soil food web to the forefront in the early
Yes.
2000s.
Yes.
So and knowing that he's with the person that basically made it a really big thing, made me a little bit more prone to
Let
really
me
go through
keep
everything he
talking.
offers.
I can hear you because I got the wireless in. So keep talking for a second. I'm going to grab something that's not in this room right now because it's relevant to the conversation. But
Ah,
which maybe is your favorite Jeff Lowenfeld's book, or which one, or maybe what impact did one of them have on you that you were like, I'm getting the series? Because
it
everybody
was
that series.
right. And the one that probably impacted me the most when it comes to Jeff would be the very first one that he did, which was teaming with microbes. Because not only does he go over the microbes, he goes over how you can test the components of your soil if you're trying to repair your own soil. He goes over what was it? AACTs, which is actively aerated compost teas. How you can go from yes, sir, there it
That's the one right
is.
there.
Yep, he goes over how you can make a fungally dominated compost tea versus like a bacterially dominated compost tea, or how to make a nice little balance between the two. Yes, sir. That's the one right there. I was also listening to a recent webinar that he did that is called the Updated Soil Food Web, which he made a statement in there that really made me scratch my head, and I asked you about it the other day on Instagram, and that was pertaining to terroir.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he had stated in that webinar that they are now starting to believe that the terroir is caused by the microbes local to the area. So, and they're
Yeah.
saying
Oh
they're
yeah.
starting to see more and more signs of that. And that's why I asked you if you think that at one point or another, let's say they're going to go down to
Mm-hmm.
Mendocino, and manage to isolate that microbe population to bring it to somebody like you up in Washington or like me here in Nevada and be able to possibly get the same terroir effect that they have down there in Mendo.
And it would have to balance itself out because you can introduce any kind of like microbial or bacterial colonies to any environment you really want, but it's whether
Mm-hmm.
that like environment is sustainable. And that's one thing that I think people may be missing in that equation, because let's just say they took a dump truck of the soil. That natural soil has so many things in it. Granted, we know basically, and this is kind of an agreed upon number, we know 5% of what's actually going on in the soil. So
Oh
that
yeah.
leaves a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
room for just like up is down and down is up. But we know that there needs to be a balance and there's special stuff in that soil. And why I mentioned that number is because we don't know exactly what the special stuff is, but we know it's in there. It's like dark matter. Um,
Right.
but once that exhausts itself in the new environment, it wouldn't be able to like reproduce or sustain that same level of that special microbial or bacterial colony, is what I suspect. And then it will kind of lose its luster unless you do isolate and find out exactly what that magic is, like you were saying.
Yeah, and no, and that's what I was thinking about with that. Because like someone like me who does living soil, and like for me, I use a lot of vermicompost. So I have a red wiggler bin out there,
Nice.
and I usually compost all of our kitchen scraps, and like we do a lot of juicing and stuff. Which, by the way, if you guys have never done it, juice with your fan leaves. It is the best energy drink I have ever had in my life. You don't get jittery, and you also get some of the cannabinoids, so like the CBD and stuff like
Mhm.
that to help with some of the pain relief and inflammation. If you guys suffer from, like arthritis, like I have arthritis in my hands whenever I can, I juice these. I feel wonderful. So that's one use. If you guys don't compost them, juice them. Swear to God, I live by that nonstop ever since probably about 3 years ago when my wife introduced me to juicing. So we said, well, and then I did some research, and they said one of the best ways for us to actually consume cannabis is to eat it. And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily after it's been cured or it's been decarbed or anything like that. It's just plainly eating the plant. Like you're supposed to like come over here and just chomp a nug. And I'm like, oh, that would be kind of tough on the teeth, you know, you can, all trichomes and stickiness. You wouldn't even be able to swallow the freaking thing.
I knew a dude who wouldn't smoke, and it wouldn't be that often. And I don't know if he just had this thing for putting things in his mouth, but he would eat buds. Like that's what he enjoyed. He would just eat buds. Granted, I've known a lot of people, and this is one dude, so it's not like it's a very common technique. But yeah, I knew a dude. He would just chew buds, and of course, I tried it, and I'm just like, I'll smoke it. I'll smoke it.
Yeah, yeah, and the living soil thing that I really came up with has a lot to do with red wigglers, and worms, and then compost teas, because obviously right now I'm growing in pots and I use 7-gallon pots, so it's inevitable I have to disturb the soil. And if you're doing a true soil food web and everything, you're not supposed to do that. So that's where my compost teas come into play. So I will empty out my pots, remove as much of the root ball as I can. I will amend in my compost and then get everything planted. And as after everything's planted, I make a compost tea from that same vermicompost. That way I can reintroduce my microbial population back into my soil, and we start the cycle all over again. So my soil is reused. I just happen to put vermicompost right back into it, which has earthworm castings, all of the fun little goodies and stuff already in there. So that's how I keep mine sustainable. I try not to buy soil that often, especially from our area. We had a big fire up here, and one of the things that's unique to the soil that we use is called Tahoe pine peat. It's made up in the South Lake Tahoe area, and the water retention compared to regular peat moss is 4 times the capacity.
Oh wow!
So I get over 100. Yeah, it retains water like you would not believe. I can pump this tent up to 85 degrees, and still, if I were hand watering, only have to water every 4 to 5 days.
Wow.
It's wonderful for our area, and the other reason I use it is it's local. They have a composting program for folks that are like, well, I have all this kitchen waste and I don't know what to do with it, but I don't want to throw it away. They'll actually come around to your house and pick it up for you. So they'll come and they take it out to their compost site. It's in a little rink-a-dink town out by our state capital, Carson City. And, they go through and they compost everything and, make it into a product that's really good for our area. And I really like that company because they've also done their research about our soil. They've taken soil samples from all over the state and had them tested to find out that specifically where I'm at, we're short 1,000 pounds of calcium per acre of soil.
Damn.
That's what we found out, which is why we're overly abundant in dandelions. I don't know if folks know about dandelions, but if you don't have a lot of calcium in your soil, you're going to get a lot of dandelions because they're going to chase and find that. When they die, they put that calcium that they found back into the soil for you. So it's part of a soil food web thing that they like to participate in as well. It's not just the microbes that participate in that, as a heads up. So
that's an excellent point, because we've all heard about like we'll plant beans and stuff because they fixate nitrogen and they put it back in the soil, or clover, when you chop and drop it's putting it back in. So that is the idea behind like not remediation, but God, not even amending. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, but that's the point of putting stuff back on cover crop, chop and drop type of thing, because it will take it out of the soil, but it remains in the foliage. And so when it goes back to the soil and it decomposes, and the microbes and the fungi and all that eat it, they mine those nutrients and minerals, which are then readily plant available when it gets pooped out or it reaches the rhizosphere. And that actually kind of brings us to a question Sean Kirk had earlier when we were talking about that, because like as a farmer, there is a right time of the day to pick your produce. It's in the beginning of the day before the heat of the day has set, and that can help with nutrition. But I don't know if this has ever been measured. And the question is there a preferred time of day to harvest the fruit or the plants that you're using to make your KNF inputs? Because again, people who aren't familiar with that, a lot of the KNF inputs are fermentations, which again is where those minerals stored drop into solution.
As far as a preferred time of day, I usually gun for whenever I'm harvesting anything, I'm trying to harvest in the morning. Is generally when I do it. Not necessarily before sunrise, but usually somewhere after a couple of hours of sun being out there. A lot of folks are like, whoa, why is that? Well, you got to think about how the plant's moving the nutrients up and down. You know, you have everything going. So during their sleep cycle, generally they send it down to the roots. When you are in daylight, they generally send it up so that they can use that energy that they've, been storing over the night for you. So it's, for me, it makes it feel almost like it's balanced, like there's still some down there in the roots, so I'm not taking 100% of it away, and there's still some of it up here because it was just the start of the day, so some of it has it. So it's kind of turning into a personal preference, in my opinion, at that point. The other thing that my grandma used to do was when she was making her fermented plant juices and her fermented fruit juices that she used to do, it's anything that was in the garden. So if she saw a leaf that was really beat up and ratty, it would still go in there. You don't need to have the pristine of the pristine material, because regardless of that thing being beat up or not, it still has a nutritional value in there. So put everything in there. Not necessarily like brown mulch is what they would refer to, so like dry leaves and stuff like that, but green manures, which would be like your clover, for example, that you were talking about earlier. Those are the types of things that you would really want to include when you're making like a fermented plant juice, for example. So to answer the question, it's a personal preference. I usually say go for the beginning of the day. One, you're not working in the heat. Two, you're thinking about how that plant's actually moving everything throughout itself.
Yeah,
so
that's an excellent answer, because that does describe, it's always good for people, and we've actually talked about this before. It's good for people to understand the why, not just the how or what to do. It's the why that makes all the difference. And this is a great example, because you're absolutely right. And we know this with cannabis too, during, the night or the lights out, the roots, a lot of the stuff is going down to the roots to send out as exudates. These exudates attract the microbes and the bacteria, but we know it's sending it down. And the same would apply towards that type of plant. So if, a 2 a.m. type of person and you just like go out and do it, no, you're not going to get the same benefit. So I'm glad that you kind of mentioned it and framed it in that way, because that is the why of the answer. And that's important to know, is the why, because that's when you get the full understanding and the foundation there. Let's see here. I had a comment I was going to queue up. Oh yeah. This is actually perfect. Yama Grow 420 says Bonsai got me on the wormhole of alfalfa teas now, which is good. Go and understand the why. And everybody, this is one of the biggest things that I preach. And I know you were big on this too with your channel. It's not just the what and the how. You got to understand the why, because that's what connects everything later. And as a living soil person, that's really important for you.
That's
why.
super important as to why you're doing something. If you're just doing something to doing something, it doesn't always mean that you're going to have good results from doing that. And I'm one of the first people that can attest to that from the multiple things that I've tried. Don't just do things to do things. Put some research into the things. Or if you have a thought process or something that came up, you're like, I wonder. Google is a wonderful tool. I mean, they call it the toilet of the internet, but believe it or not, it does have a lot of good information that you can pull off there. One thing that I recommend to everybody, especially if you're looking into like living soils, or you're going to be looking into just cultivating in general, most universities actually have a free public website where they will give you a bunch of college level information. So I was using the University of Texas, UNR, so the University of Nevada, Reno. I know Oklahoma does one as well. And this is when I was researching melons and cucurbits and trying to get my whole lowdown on how I wanted to approach that, what's going to be the best planting cycle, what kind of soil are they going to want? Are they going to want something that's acidic versus, alkane or base? If we're going with basic chemistry terms, that would be base, not alkane. Sorry. But there's so much good information out there. And
there is. Please, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. And it's your job to find it and utilize it. I mean, sometimes if you want to reach out to folks, like I'm more than happy if you send me a DM on Instagram or you leave me a comment on YouTube. I will always get back to you and I will send you something. If it's not exactly what you're looking for, at least read through the information because it may be a stepping stone to get you where you want to be. So
it will. I'm really glad you mentioned that because this can really be a huge benefit for outdoor growers. Every state will have an agricultural extension at one of the universities. I'm in Washington. We have the University of Washington and we have Washington State University. WSU has the agricultural extension and they are the ones that you can contact. I could contact the one right now and they're going to know what is the new pest that has hit this particular area this year. They know what is like moving its way here. They know what's hitting heavy. They know they know so much free information that they give out on their websites, and you can contact them and you're talking tomatoes, remember, talking tomatoes, but they know really quickly and they're happy to help as long as you don't say the cannabis word. So your local extension for outdoor growers is a hugely invaluable resource to kind of tap. And a lot of the people here, are interested in that. That's why they're here. They're learning, finding new resources like the Lowenfeld's books, those series.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to this is what I ran out of the room for. Oh, and by the way, we're past an hour right now. So in just a second, guys, we're gonna do the garden tour. We're gonna give away some more beans. Got a couple more this show to give away. So we're gonna do those. And I want to do a couple special shout outs in a second. But finishing this on, this is what I ran out of the room for. This is the book by Matt Powers, The Regenerative Soil, Science and Solutions, and I actually do buy the teacher's guide with it because this has like the homework assignments and the point of what the class is reading, so I kind of get to like reinforce it over on myself. But you mentioned Dr. Elaine Ingram, and yeah, she really was the pioneer pushing this, and he works closely with her. I forgot. But in his few personal thanks in the acknowledgments, all of these people look up Olivier Husson, PhD, James White, PhD. James White is the one who did all of the research that Jeff Lowenfeld's new book about teaming with bacteria. It's right on the research from Dr. James White, PhD, and Dr. Elaine Ingram. I know he's taken her course. I know he's graduated from his course. She even gives him like the, like on the back of the book, the like, this is a great book. I thought it was stupendous. Type of things. She's even written one of those for him. So yeah, so Matt Powers. I've done some shows with him. I've seen a lot. He's an excellent teacher for my style of learning. He's fun. He's funny. He's got a lot of visuals. What is the point I was going to try to make here? Oh yeah, that's what it was. When I started listening to him and some of the stuff, like he's big into the microscopes, and he's got a new book coming out with Dr. Elaine Ingham. They're like back and forth level on that experimental stuff. But when I first found him, the first show I watched with him, I'm like, okay, this guy is either insane or genius. Like there's some people out there where you're just like, I don't know what you are yet. And the more that, I've learned and watched and read and just studied and confirmed his stuff, he's really kind of a genius. He's like ahead of his time on a lot of the soil stuff. So that's another person I always like, Matt Powers. Read
I'm gonna
the
have to get
books
that
first. Start with Lowenfels. Start with Jeff Lowenfels, the Teaming With series. As you said, Dr. Elaine Ingram. But really, it's like he's kind of the next generation Dr. Elaine Ingram, in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I ran out of the room for, because that's what I wanted to show you, because credentials matter. They matter so much in a field where it's hard to dispute. Like I said earlier, we know about 5% of actually what happens in the soil. So people could come up with all kinds of crazy stuff if you can like connect dots and get a like shred of like, well, yeah, okay, I believe that. You have nothing else to dispute it. And I guess going back to the importance of knowing why is, once you know why of many things, you know the mechanics of many things. So you know that what something may be proposed is like, well, no, because the mechanics don't actually work like that. Everything else makes sense, but it doesn't actually work like that. So sorry for being long-winded there.
No, we love hearing it. Love hearing it, because it's a lot of valid points in there. It's like you said, it's after knowing the why, and then all of a sudden you know how the machine works. You see it on paper, someone says this, you're like, no, the machine don't work that way. It's a common thing that you hear in manufacturing, because I have a huge manufacturing background. I used to do a lot of extrusion and stuff like that. Is like, we hated the engineers because that's not practical. That's not how it works. So it just made me giggle, like hearing you say that, because I'm like, ooh, that's kind of thing.
Perfect example, man. Perfect example.
Yeah, it's just not how it works. I mean, in practicality, no, unfortunately. Like, sounds good on paper.
Yeah.
But
and in the engineering mind in the world, it works. Like, I'm definitely back to the audio engineering business. I worked with some engineers that were fucking brilliant. But yeah, they do. They hand you the new layout and you're like, no. Well, why not? It has everything you asked for in one device. You're like, all over the fucking place. Like, no. But yeah, sorry to derail there.
No.
Yeah, we get back to it. We'll do, if you're ready in a second, we'll do the garden tour. I want to give away another pack of beans, though.
I was going to ask, are we doing beans right now?
Yeah, we're doing beans again. We're doing beans. So congratulations to Rico on the first win. We'll see who's going to be the next win. We are going with some Wicked Genetics right now. This is Start a Life. And this is from the Camelot series. What one do we have here? It is the Moscato, which is Sour Moon times Camelot. So it's really small writing, and I've got old dude eyes. See if I can focus. There it is. See, it's that one with the check mark. The Moscato. Yeah, that side. Boop, 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 boop. It's over there. So we're going to be giving these away. U.S. only is what I'm going to ask for, because shipping stinks. But again, I'm trying to get something to Canada to take care of all of that. All right. Because Bonzhai Garden Guy takes me to... Oh, I'm on the full screen myself, damn it. That's what happens when I go to the other screen. Because I was going to say, because Bonzhai Garden Guy is long to type out, we're going to go with BGG.
Yeah.
I got those initials right. Okay, I'm like, Bonzhai Garden Guy. Okay, BGG, everybody. It's a Stony episode today. What can I say? If you are in the US, in chat, and you want to try these Wicked Genetics, the Camelot series, Moscato, just go ahead and type BGG into chat. But I did want to take at the top of the hour here, before we get into the garden tour, two things very important to me. One, and this is in no particular order. Number one, congratulations, Ohio. Congratulations. You are legal.
Yeah.
You turned it down in 2015 for good reason. You waited. You got something much better. So, yeah, congratulations, Ohio. Shout out to those guys. And most importantly, shout out to our veterans. Today is Veterans Day. I have veterans in my family. I'm not a veteran myself, but I come from a long line of them, and I know a lot of them. So I want to say thank you. I appreciate you. And today is the day for you. So Veterans Day, I know at my house, I remember as a kid, you hear a day and you think it's a day to celebrate. My dad's like, well, it can be a little different for other people. So salute to you guys. I do want to mention the 22 Too Many, which is an organization out of Washington State. We did a kind of a get together last year. Is reasons why it's called 22 Too Many. It's 22 service members per day take their life. That's a lot of people per day, consistent, every day, year round. 22 Too Many is a good organization to get involved with. Support those organizations. I believe 988 is the new suicide hotline. Mental health, nothing to fuck with. It's not Wu-Tang, guys. So take it seriously. Take care of it. And again, salute. Thank you all the veterans. And congratulations, Ohio. So those are the two things I wanted to get off of my mind today. Very important to say.
Yes, very, very, very important. So thank you for all the servicemen out there. I do come from a military family as well. So we know all gave some gave all. So
amen.
That's a very common thing that you hear out there. And it's like Chad said, take care of that mental health. I've lost a lot of good friends from that were in Iraq. So always make sure you're taking care of all aspects of your health, not just your physical, but go ahead and keep that mind intact too. We don't want anybody leaving before they have to.
Amen to that, man. And I'm glad to see that, hopefully the government is going to just release the reins of cannabis, but they have been at least loosening it up for veterans, whether they can talk about it, take it, get prescribed it, step in the right direction. Definitely not the last mile we need to walk, but that is a good thing, because again, a lot of us turn to cannabis for health and heart and mind, body and soul. It affects us all differently. So yeah, let's see, how many do we have in here right now? Oh my gosh, 102 already. You guys are freaking awesome. Let's give away these beans, because we're gonna do a garden tour. So all right, let's give these away. Good luck. And again, if you are the winner, please just let us know in chat that you are in the US and hit me up on Instagram and we'll get that all sorted out. My link is in the show notes. We also got Bonzhai Garden Guy's links in the show notes. You can click on his Instagram. KNC, congratulations, buddy.
Hey, congrats.
KNC wins the BGG. Congratulations, man. And I also posted your YouTube down there too, because again, some of it's older, but it is still good. That's the awesome thing about the internet. If you make good information, it will be timeless. And I'm just poking you to make new material, because I think you got some good stuff. So
yeah, I'll get back on that, I promise.
Well, you've got good reasons. Priorities are important. So I'm glad you've got the priorities right. But start sharing now. Start sharing. All right, KNC, congratulations. Hit me up. Let's go into the garden.
Okay, let's take a look at my girls that we have going on right now. So
let's start with, what are they? Or you start wherever you want, man. This is your show. I'm just running the board for you at this point.
Okay, so what we have going on right now here on the right side of the tent is we actually have two different phenotypes of the Mendo cups, and that's from Robin Hood Seeds. And then over here on the left side of the tent, we have the Mendo Sunset. So the genetics themselves, this is the Mendo Breath F3 by the Banana Buttercups. And then this one is the Mendo Breath 3 by Sunset Sherbet. So I've grown both of them. These phenos are actually a little bit different than what I have seen. I'm trying to see if I can get in here and make it look a little better, but you can see it's got a little bit of a, almost like a foxtail-y structure. going on in there. These things pack on the trichomes, super heavy. You can see this this garden's fading out quite nicely. We've got some really nice purples. The Mendo Sunset back here is like black. I don't even know how else to describe that. It is literally just dark, dark. So we are going to be about 10 to 14 days out from harvest on these. And if you haven't grown anything from Robin Hood Seeds, I do recommend it. I'm super excited this time because hopefully I can get a good shot of it. You can see, look at that frost. That's just...
trichomes all the way down, not just the top buds, all the way down on the sugar leaves. Like, even if you didn't wash the buds for your material, you have so much just like shake material there that's trichome covered.
It's insane. Yeah, you come in here and you look down here too, and you would figure, oh, this doesn't have that much light. Oh no, it's definitely packing it on in there. So yeah, we're about 10 to 14 days out on these. Super excited. I'm debating. As you can see, we've got some nice big healthy nugs. These things are firm. Oh, my hands all sticky now. I barely just touched that thing. Stinks super good. I love it. I'm on the debate right now on what I'm going to be washing and what I'm going to be making into rosin. And knowing my luck, I'm probably going to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to keep all the nice tops. And then I realize as I look back at this one in the far back, look at that thing just towers. Starts down here, comes all the way up here. Like, Lord, that's like 16 inches of just solid, beautiful nugs. That's kind of a tough decision. It's kind of a tough decision.
It's a nice bud structure too, because you know there's always like the spear, there's like the cone, there's the golf ball, there's the like ace of spades, but this is just boom, 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 boom all the way down. See, that is where like what I call like a chunky bud, because it just kind of chunks all the way down, and it almost like chunks so much, like you said, there's almost the little foxtails going, but that's just because the bracts are swelling so much. And I usually will see that in like the last couple of weeks if I have a strain like that, where it just adds that little bit of like one or two stacked bracts that give it that foxtail. And something like that with as much trichome coverage as you have, I mean, that almost might be the candidate for what to wash. Just again, more surface area, more trichomes. Who knows though? That lower stuff looked good to smoke too, but it also looked good to wash. So,
well, I mean, I got lazy, as you can see. Yeah, I got super lazy, and usually, last show I was on with you when you did the open mic, I usually do a defoliation at week 3, but something come up, so that didn't happen. So
we've all been there, and that's interesting because people will like swear or live and die by like swaz it, leave everything on. You can actually just try both, man. See what happens. See how the lowers develop. See what you like, what you don't. Do you want to get that stuff off because of environment? Do you hate trimming larvae? Do you wash? Do you want that? What does your schedule permit?
And that's what I was thinking about. And I was like, well, you got a little bit lazy, but that may be a blessing in disguise because, like I said, I'm going to be washing some stuff. So instead of having to torture myself with trimming the larvae, why don't I wash it? It's got that trichome development down there. Everything in the bottom of this canopy is super frosty as well. So it's not like it's going to be lacking the contents of what I'm looking for. And I have 2 different size washing machines. I have one that does 2.5 gallons worth of water, and then I have one that does 5 gallons worth of water. So I don't need to have an enormous amount of biomass in order to do these washes that I'm planning on. So this is the 3x3 that I have going on right now. And you guys see over here, I have just a few more. These are some cuts that I took. I have... Well, this is technically my flower tent, but I don't know how I got flip-flop, but we won't go there. So I have 3 of the Mendo cups that I kept. I took cuts from the one in the back. So that's that right there, that one that had that real nice foxtaily structure. Okay. And then you guys, might notice I've got a boy in here.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's a boy.
Is that a
from...
re-veg?
No, actually, what I did is I took a cut while I think it was like about 10 days into flower when I flipped for the new genetic I'm making, which these two that are tagged are the original mama of what is going to be the Nakatomi Sunset.
Yeah.
So I was able to get some, and you'll see he's still got some little pollen coming off in him and stuff, but I'm not too worried about that. He is actually vegging out quite nicely because he was tiny. He was rinky dinky when I first started that cut. So what I'll probably end up going through and doing is I will remove all of these pollen sacs. That way I can get him to focus on producing more foliage and getting his height back. Some of these cuts in here, if you're close to me and you know me, I like to give people plants. So I actually saw a friend of mine. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who's actually in the chat right now. He is going to be getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants from me. And those are the Mendo Sunset. So this is 1 of 3. Yeah, this is 2 of 3 since we've already looked at the flower tent. This is the clone tent.
Real quick, before we move on, sorry to interrupt there. The flower tent there, you have a 3x3, and I've seen some people asking about lights, but that's all. I'm also curious about that because 3x3 seems to be the footprint that companies do not build a light for. So what are you using? Because it's working, whatever it is.
I am actually using an FC 3000. I had
300 watts or?
Yeah, it's 300 watts on the dot. I actually want to get a light from Viper Spectra from their KS series, and I believe it's a 320 watt.
Okay.
So I kind of map out my lighting a little bit differently. The very first show that I ever did with you, we were talking about how, they give you that light map where it's like, oh, at 30 inches, it says it's this par, at 24 inches, and then 18 and 12. Everybody's looking at it that way. And I'm like, well, hold on, flip that fucker upside down. Because if you don't plan on moving your light, your 30 inches is here. And then as they grow, all of a sudden you're 24 inches. Then you're 18. Then you're 12. So your par map, if you technically flip those upside down when you buy a brand new light, we all get them. It's got the nice little thing on there where it's like, oh yeah, all those sizes on there. I don't move my lights generally. No. I let them grow to it. Generally, I don't.
I like that you mentioned that. I do the same thing. Like I don't, especially now that I have bigger lights or heavier lights, and you can't get in the back to like do that when you got your plants. So I do 2 things. Yes, I let my plants grow to the light, but I also control the intensity with the dimmer. So that's kind of how I can like regulate some things. It's like, well, they're, I don't raise the light. I use the dimmer and let the plants grow into it. So it's cool to know other people are doing that out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of deceived by that. You see a lot of big time influencers are like, well, I move my lights and I got to do that. Well, you're kind of making a little bit more work for yourself technically by having to take that thing up and down, pull the tape measure out, and oh my God, I'm gonna make sure. Sometimes, the light can be a little high. It'll make it a little bit leggy, but if you practice backfilling, you can take care of that legginess. You can take care of that legginess. I tell that to everybody. Oh, my plant's real long. Backfill it.
Yep.
That stalk will make more roots. So the only thing you're going to do is bigger the roots, the bigger the fruits.
Raising your light every day is one of those engineering suggestions. Like we were talking about earlier, just raise the light every day. Then you'll keep it at the perfect height all the time. You're like, yeah, but
that's not practical.
It's very hard. Or it
It's
can
not.
be very hard. When you know, if a 2x2, a 2x4, yes, you could get in there. It's a lot easier to do. But when you have something like a 4x4, a 5x5, anything that's deep, the 3x3 might even be hard. But to reach those back poles where you've got your yo-yos without crushing your plants, without, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. So
Good luck getting to the back of my 3x3 through that canopy. I've
yeah.
tried, and I was kind of futzing around back there, and I thought I broke a branch. And I was like, well, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to back off very slowly from you. I think you look good just how you are. We're just going to relax on that for a second.
Yep. And
So,
I want to toss this one in here too, real quick. I'm sorry, but Jack Beanstalk, another excellent suggestion. And this is something that I have done too. If there's one that's just lagging behind the rest and it's going to get like outshadowed from the canopy, yeah, I raise the plants, putting them on milk crates, he says, then lower as the plant grows. Great advice there.
Yeah, that's a perfect approach too, because you're working on the same concept as well. So, that is one thing that I would recommend too. You want to be dealing with the plants versus dealing with the lights. Like you said, sometimes it's hard to get back there on the canopy. Use a milk crate. You got boxes. I mean, it's not going to hurt you to bring the plant up. It's just like taking the light down to it. So,
all right, I'll stop interrupting. I'm sorry. I'll stop interrupting you.
I have one more to show, and I wasn't supposed to show this one yet. So she looks a little ratty right now because it's watering day for her. I had a bunch of stuff, so she'll get her water a little bit later on. Mm-hmm. But this is a Mendo Sunset. But let's see if we can take a look in there. God, those look like seeds.
Prego. She's a little
prego here. So she is a very sweet, skunky smell is what she has to her. And this is the Mendo Sunset that I chose to breed with that little boy that you guys saw inside the cloning tent.
Very nice.
That is the dad, and the two cuts there, like I said, there's 2, 4, 6, 7. There's 7 cuts technically of the Mendo Sunset, but only 5 of them are going out. 2 of those cuts are her prior to being pollinated. So that'll be a new genetic that's going to be coming out here. Oh gosh, she's starting to fade out pretty hard as well. Her seeds have been going for almost 5 weeks now. No, a little bit longer than that, actually. October 10th was when I did the pollination.
Okay, about 4 weeks, a little bit over.
Yeah, 4 or 5 weeks is like right where she's at. I'm just trying to keep a very close eye on it. I know that I want to let them go at least 5 to 6 weeks for that. Everything looks like it's forming really good right now, so I definitely want to make sure that I'll let her run longer to make sure that those seeds mature out fully.
Yeah, that's what I've done in the past too. You're not gonna hurt the seeds by going longer with the plant. Usually I don't really harvest or do anything with the plant material if it's seeded, just because I have to go through and break it up by hand, and it's not something I really want to smoke. That's something that I will throw into the washing machine. So yeah, let it go late. Seeds to reach maturity, 4 to 6 weeks is what they say. You can kind of get a gauge on it, and all up and down the plant you want to look. When it's really done, you'll see those brown, kind of the round part just popping out of some of the bracts. Not all of them, but you'll be able to tell when some are definitely done. But yeah, you're not going to let it go too long. I usually let it go a couple weeks longer than I normally would if I was just going to harvest for flower. It's like you said, it sucks to pollinate a plant that you're not going to really get for smoke, and then you pull it too early and most of your seeds are white. You're just like, should have waited.
Yep, that's where I'm at. And I've been kind of like looking around in there, and you can see some of the bract are actually like splitting so that I can actually kind of like see just a hair of it. And I'm like, ooh, you're not quite brown yet, but you're definitely plumping up and gaining that size that I want to see. So like I said, I'm going to let that thing run. It's going to run, I got 10 to 14 days on these. And then all of a sudden I'm probably going to let that run probably like another 21 to 28 days. Like I have no problem with that. It's in the little 2x2. It's isolated by itself. This run will come down. I will chop and dry in here as well. I do have a humidifier that I'll add in so that I can get to the 60-60. We're getting really good temperature drops at night. We're getting down to the 20s. Whoa. Where we are. Yeah, it's been a little chilly. Like we're lucky if we're getting up to the mid 50s during the daytime, peak heat.
Okay, so it's that winter time. I kind of mentioned. Yeah, I kind of mentioned earlier. Sometimes the cold weather, it reduces that water uptake, which can reduce your calcium uptake, which can lead to issues. Is there anything that you do pre-winter or before the cold weather sets into your garden, or is your garden pretty much maintained at an indoor, preferable temperature? My shit will still get down like 65 in the night.
Yeah,
do something for it.
My stuff will hit that at nighttime, but here's the thing. So I know a lot of folks that will be like, oh shit, well, my house, obviously we've got heating. So where my tents are set up is actually where my furnace is. So I get some free CO2 to start with. If you guys ever, want to CO2 charge your stuff for free, that's one good place to look at. Your hot water heater, where your furnace is. That gas combustion causes CO2. You get a free charge on it. I'll make sure that we have a house right around 70. I don't mind that. The wife doesn't mind that. Kid doesn't mind that. So
power bill doesn't mind that.
Yeah, and so the way that I go about it is like summertime. I will generally run at night. I'll have my lights on during the nighttime, and that'll make it so that my temperature swing is not so drastic. Because I had one year that I grew and I was like, cool, I'll just run my lights during the day, 90 degrees in the tent. And I'm like, yo, I can't keep this thing cool even if my life depended on it. And then all of a sudden it would drop down to 55 at night. And I'm like, well, like 35-degree temperature swing. Colors were wonderful.
Asking for PM at that point. Yeah.
Oh, and I got it. I got it. I definitely got it. So, actually, that video on my YouTube on that PM when I did the whole strip down and showed how to do the hydrogen peroxide kill. That's the grow.
That was it. Okay.
That was it.
That's
so, and so what I'll do is I kind of look at what's going on with the weather outside because we're high desert. We have these wild ranges of temperatures. I mean, last year, summertime, like going into fall, we had days where it was 90 degrees and then it would get down to night at 32. Literally hit freezing from 90 in a matter of just a couple of hours. It was a crazy year for weather last year. So, I mean, it's not something that's necessarily something that always happens, but for our area, 30 to 40 degree temperature swings during the day is not abnormal. So it's hard to adapt, but like I said, a majority of the time I run during the nights so that I can battle the coldest part of the day with the lights. And then when I hit midday, I don't have that extra heat source in there, pounding on there, kicking the tent up to 90 degrees, high 80s, whatever you want to call it. So I just look at what's going on with the time of year. Like the room that I'm in right now, it stays pretty consistent. So if I want to stay daytime, I can. If I want to go nighttime, I can.
Okay.
But first growing, oh no, I was making mistakes left and right with that. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll run daytime, fry my plants, PM, all sorts of weird stuff. I'm going to run at night. And then it was like, even with these lights on, I still can't maintain the heat. And it was like, oh no. And I had it in a different room. I had it inside of a closet, not very well insulated up top and everything. So I was like, well, shit. So I need to find a new location in the house to put my tents. And that's one thing that I would say really helps with the situation that I have as far as growing goes, and being able to prepare myself for what's going on per season is really where I'm situated at. So
that's sometimes an underrated or underlooked factor when people are deciding where to put the grow in their house. You know, sometimes like the southwest facing is going to get the most sun, so it may be a lot hotter. If you have a problem with heat, maybe choose like a room with more interior walls than exterior walls. Or if you're in a place that has crazy swings like that and gets super cold, the garage probably isn't the ideal spot because it's usually not insulated. So yeah, that's you know, everybody's just like, sweet, I got a tent, I can put it up anywhere that fits, put it. But if you have an option, you can be a little more strategic about it.
Right. And I think that's one thing that a lot of folks should look at when, like, especially if you're a beginning gardener. I know I did a setting up a perpetual grow series on my YouTube as well. Like some of the things that you're going to want to look for, like how much electrical consumption you're going to have, how stabilized are your atmospherics, so your temperature, what does your humidity look like in there. There's a lot of folks that won't test the CO2 in their area, but like you and me talking right now, I think, what did they say? Atmospherics like 430 or something like that?
Yeah, right around 400, yeah.
Yeah, right around 400. Just in these 2 hours that we talked, I bet you my CO2 is probably up to 800. So
yep.
That's kind of how it works. And then one thing I pointed out was water heaters, furnaces, things like that, through their combustion process, they produce free CO2. So it's one way you can cheat the system and not have to get, say, TNB natural canisters. Or I know I did a DIY CO2 diffuser on my channel as well. So yeah, I've got a few things on there that are DIY that'll help folks who are just getting into growing, or if they're not sure it's something that they want to fully pursue all the time, and you're like, well, it would really be nice to try this. There's some DIY options out there. So, I mean, take a look around. I'm not the only one that has them. I know Mad Hatter has them as well. I know Rob and like Mr. Grow It and them have discussed a few things about doing some DIY fixes for certain atmospheric controls and stuff. So that's one thing I would encourage. If you can build it yourself, do it. Yeah,
and you know, those guys are friends with a Green Goblin 510 who I've had on the show in the past. He is like the DIY master. He's got a really cool setup, and built it all himself with like Raspberry Pi stuff. It's kind of beyond me, but he does actually he makes like the files and stuff that he uses available. So if anybody wants to run the same thing, you just buy like the Raspberry Pi. I think there's like an extra chip or something. And then you could like tap into the program. He's got everything from like atmospherics, controls to cameras. Like it's kind of crazy what one person can do with the right information.
Green Goblin has a lot of good info on KNF too. He shows you how to make Jadam. He shows you he'll actually show you how to make like a sulfur spray and stuff like that, where it's legit and safe compared to where like you're going to.
Yeah, that sulfur spray could not be safe. Everybody remembers that scene from like, what is it, Fight Club, where they like kiss the arm, then they pour the acid on and like the lips form.
Yeah.
That's the stuff you're using. That's the stuff you're using to make that sulfur spray. So
yeah, so
he's hydrochloric acid or something. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, it's sulfuric acid.
Well, that would make sense. They're sulfur.
No, yeah, Green Goblin is definitely one of the guys that when I first really started getting into living soil, and I was watching a lot of like Mr. Grow It and you know all of those guys. They're big influencers. Of course, they're going to be like one of the first ones to pop up. So they had a lot of good information, but all of them were using bottled nutrients, and I'm not a bottled nutrient grower.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they were like, yo, we got our friend Green Goblin here. He's our all organic guru. And he was literally one of the first people that I was like, okay, I see what you got going on there with your cement mixer to make your soil tossing a lot easier for yourself and stuff. So,
dude,
he's a real smart guy. And I I was looking at some of his programs, and as long as, like you said, as long as you have the Raspberry Pi, you can download those, and you can. It's a little bit of a user open interface, so you can make the adjustments that you need to for your area. So, I mean, a huge shout out to Green Goblin.
Yeah, huge shout out to Green Goblin, and Michael S. says here too. Chris Trump, the KNF guru.
Yes.
Heck yeah, Chris Trump is definitely a destination on your road of knowledge. Like,
oh yeah.
He's definitely down the road, on the road for sure. So that's another good name that throughout all the names we've been tossing out today, that is one that we haven't mentioned yet. So I saw that pop up. Michael S., good comment. Thank you very much. Because, yeah, if you want to go down that road, do not omit that man's teachings. So
Yeah.
we're getting towards the end here. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to still give away some more beans. I definitely want to give you some last words, and I also want to let everybody in chat, if you guys have any questions for the guest or just questions in general, we'll try to get to those. So go ahead and type them in there. Pinhead says KNF Drake is good too. Absolutely. It's cool to see more people adopting it or more people sharing their experience, because with a lot of these things, in particular living soil, you have to have experience, because results really take like 2 to 3 years to even start to make like huge differences in the overall soil. So yeah, experience in that world is pretty darn important, because like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of things that sound good on paper, but in practice, it just doesn't translate. So that's good. Let's give away real quick. Let's give away testers. The Westport Posse, the Westport Grape Juice S1. I've got a couple grow videos going on this channel right now. On my Instagram, you can see the finished phenos. The finished video is going to come up shortly. Just need to do a little bit of editing. And I am looking for testers right now. It is going to close Sunday. I have a link in the description or in the most recent IG post on my Instagram. If you go there, there's a link to a survey. Fill out the survey. Your name is in the hat. I'm going to randomly select 50 people and get some beans out to you guys to start testing. I've been pretty happy with it. I'm excited. It's all curing right now. Definitely getting some awesome profiles. So let's give away one of those. Let's give away a tester here. Let me go back to the StreamYard tool and be that teacher again, writing on the chalkboard. At least hopefully this time I'm not blown up full screen.
No, it's got the two of us this time.
Okay, thank goodness, man, because you never know. I'm not looking like to do this. I have to go to a totally separate screen. I'm not even looking at what's going on here. I'm like, burr, burr, burr. Okay, let's see. To get those tested, how many people entered to be a tester right now? Before the show started. Let's see. I'll just click this question here. Computer work? Are we here? Hello? Oh, yes. Okay. I had to hit that first. Now if I go back to the question, I got to scroll up. Damn it. Oh, well, I was going to put your comment up there, but the question was how many people had submitted the survey before the show. It was 197. So that's a 1 in 4 chance at the moment of being a tester. So I will be closing the poll on Sunday. It'll probably take me a day or two to figure out the randomizer, and then I will start contacting people. But if you want to bypass all of that and win a 10-pack, 15-pack, whatever I send out of the S1s, just type Westport's Posse, and please USA only at the moment. But just type Westport's Posse into the chat, because I think that's what its name is going to be. There are a few phenos, 4 distinct phenos that I found. I absolutely discovered where the gas comes from on the back end of the Westport grape juice, which the Westport grape juice has like a creamy wine, like mature wine and grape to it. While it's growing, it almost smells like a carnival cotton candy grape, like super sweet. And then as it dries and cures, it like matures into that kind of mature wine grape taste with a little bit of cream. And on the back end, the exhale, you get some gas. You're like, ooh, that's a nice little like compliment. But I absolutely found the pheno where that gas comes from, because it's a singular note plant. It's like, I hate to say it, but all gas, no brakes on that one. So Westport's posse, man, because there's a few different phenos. I've found ones that look exactly like the Westport grape juice, but it didn't have the exact same profile. I found ones that didn't exactly look like it, but have the same profile. And then I found the different components. I have one that's like creamy, like graham cracker and vanilla right now, a gas one, and then the Westport grape juice traditional. So yeah, it's going to be the posse, yo, posse. And that's good, because that just hopefully means the S1s, genetics aren't all locked up. It's not bottlenecked. So there's actually a few things that can pop out as far as expressions. So that's that. Let's put that to the small screen. Jim, I want to give you, some final words and some final thoughts, because you've been an awesome guest and we haven't really even touched the surface of all that you could share. So let me turn the floor over to you, and just, if you want to shout anything out, tell people where they could find you. You can hit it up. You can do all of the above here.
All right. Well, of course, I've got to give.
That's not me. Let's see. Get it right.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, of course, I've got to give Chad a huge shout out. He's actually the one that initially got me interested in coming out to do shows and share knowledge with people. The first show I did with him was the Imperfectly Perfect Grow Show, right? That's the one?
Yep.
I think so.
Yep. That was the one, the Perfectly Imperfect Grow Show.
Yeah, it was me, Mad Hatter Organics. I got to give a shout out to Jeff. He's up there in Canada doing his thing. Oh, big guy. Much love, bud. Of course, I've got, oh God, who else do I need to give a shout out to? All of the folks that decided to come out here today. We really appreciate the support. We love getting all the questions. There was one question that I saw from somebody. Let me see if I can.
Shit, I was probably on the other screen, right?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. It was asking, how wet do you keep soil in an organic grow? So, yeah, when you're talking about that, me personally, like in my grow, I run the blue mats. So I have automated watering that's gravity fed. For organic soil, though, you want to make sure that you don't have an entire dry down period. You will start to kill off the microbes and everything that is going to be working for you instead of you working for them. I would say if you're hand watering, with Fox Farms, when I grew in Fox Farms, I was watering probably every 4 days, 3 to 4 days is what I was doing. But that's with a room temperature of about 75 to 78 with a room humidity right around 50. Hopefully that answers your question for you as far as how wet to keep the soil. You should be able to stick your finger into it and still have your humus or your humic layer be able to stick to your finger. So that's one way that I definitely test that. If your finger comes out dry, then you've had too long of a dry down period. So hopefully that answers your question for you on that one. And then there was another one earlier that I saw that was talking about how to make a homemade cloning gel.
Yeah,
and that
actually,
one,
I had started that one. Let's see. Michael B, you got a recipe for natural cloning solution?
I do. And it's one thing. And it's going to sound crazy. I take an aloe vera leaf, snip, and the gel that's coming out, you go ahead, scrape off the bottom of your clone. I know a lot of people don't like to practice that, but I've had a lot better success with root striking doing that. You just take the end of the clone, stab it in the aloe vera, and then put it in your cloner. Plain and
Yeah.
simple. Plain and simple. It is probably the easiest way I have found and cost-efficient way, because I've used Clone-X and stuff like that, and you can get the little pouches of Clone-X. You can probably do like up to 150 clones through one of those pouches, and they're like, I don't know, like 10, 12 bucks or something. Well, I haven't been to the grocery store forever, so I don't know how much they are now. But I usually just keep an aloe vera plant. And the nice thing is it's not one specific aloe vera. So if you have a tiger tooth aloe vera or you have a broadleaf aloe vera, those aloes will work the same for it. So
nice. I never even thought of that. I'm glad you mentioned it because I had just assumed. I've used both. I have the tiger teeth ones here that allegedly somebody, maybe my brother, cousin, whatever, we're gonna lie about here, shipped clones. That's how they were kept, unrooted, just snips. But cut off the leaf on the aloe vera, kind of crushed up the leaf inside, so it had nice gel. Plugged the clones into that, sent them off, and all is well. So that's a great method to use and a great natural cloning solution. So thank you for mentioning that one and bringing that up, and for the question. And no, I won't put this comment up right now. I'm gonna let you keep going. All right, keep going. You were you were just kind of shouting out. You got to some questions. Where can people find you though?
Primarily, I'm usually posting most of my content over on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel as well. I will be getting back on content for everybody for that one. I aim to educate, not just show off pretty plants as well, because that's one thing that I feel we can improve on as a community is if you're having issues with your garden and you're a content creator, why don't you show everybody how to fix it instead of just, I'm just going to trash this plant and, I'll start fresh from seed and make a nice, beautiful plant. So that's the guise of my YouTube is showing you that it doesn't always have to be pretty in order to get great results at the end of it. So Instagram
to that, dude. Sorry, God, I am Chaddis Interruptus today. Shout out to Scotty from DGC. But that's such an important point, man. You've got to show the bad with the good, because most people turn to resources when things have gone bad. So show them the bad, and then how you can go about correcting it. So, okay, Chaddis Interruptus out. Back to you. I'm sorry.
No, and then of course Instagram. Instagram's where a majority of my content you're going to see is. You'll see, depending on how far back you go. At one point, I had a farm in California for 2 years. You'll be able to see that I've grown in all sorts of different environments, from outdoors to greenhouse to tents to actual fully built out grow rooms. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to reach out for me. I'll give you as much advice as I can. And I'm always here to help. So don't be afraid. That's all I can say. Shoot your shot.
Dude, that's awesome. And thank you so much. And thank you for, just like putting yourself out there and making yourself available, because as people will see if they visit, your Instagram, you're much more than like a cannabis guy. You have a lot of, well, as they hopefully heard in this episode, great time in the garden and some really natural methods, I think, that a lot of people are looking for. So, hit them up about those zucchinis, man. Hit them up about the tomatoes. Hit them up. So I appreciate that. Let's go ahead. Oh, Cheddar Bob, you're funny. He's playing with me. See, the magpie rule is in effect because this is USA only. And Magpie is the one who made the Nakatomi cross with the Cheese Star. Cheese Star is from Mr. Toad, Boneyard Seeds NorCal, who for the past 10 episodes has been part of the free giveaway. We ran out though last week, which is why I'm doing 2 today, the Twin Peaks Cannabis, and I'm working with some more breeders to get on some more genetics to give out. We still got a bunch of wicked genetics to give out, and always I'm going to give out my stuff. So let's actually get to that. Let's get to the Westport's Posse here. Again, U.S. only. Magpie rules in effect. Mr. Magpie. Love you, brother. All right. Go ahead and let me know in chat you're U.S. only if you win. Then hit me up on IG and we'll coordinate getting the beans to you. So winner is,
Miss K. Hey.
You just won some testers without having to go through the survey. Congratulations, Miss K's Garden. Hit me up on IG. I see your posts all the time, and we'll coordinate and get you out some of those testers. And check out the video, I guess, on this channel and the pictures on the IG. And if you have any questions, definitely hit me up. That's something I'm always happy to talk to people about. If you have my genetics and you got a question, shoot, man, hit me up. So my contact is down in the show notes. Bonzhai Gardens guys' contacts are down in the show notes. And okay, I see Ms. K's chiming in. You have won. I will stop sharing the screen and come back to this. So thank you. Big shout out to everybody in chat for joining us. Again, thank you. We're doing this every other Saturday, 2 p.m. I think I got a pretty darn cool guest lined up for the next one. But it's been great to see you enjoying the show today and having fun with each other in a rated PG way. I know there's a few people who'd be like, you're doing what with each other? So, and I love those people for saying it. But yeah. All right, man. You want to close it out? Any last words there, brother, man?
Everybody, have yourself a great afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to the show today. And as always, help one another and be a community.
Amen to that, dude. Thank you again for your time, buddy. We will do this sooner than we did this last time. So I will talk with you soon. And everybody out there, remember to party on.
Party on.
Fuck you, Westport!